we started, we were really influenced by the punk bands like, of course, Sex Pistols and the Ramones and the Clash. There were a lot of local bands that we were into also, more local, like the Dead Kennedys. They were from San Francisco, actually. We're from Los Angeles, but we were into TSOL and the Adolescents and those bands that were kind of in our backyard.
Well, I think even the Offspring, when we started out, was just for fun. We hoped to play a few backyard parties, maybe a few club shows, maybe one day make a record so we'd have something to show our grandkids. But, punk bands never, were never commercially viable. They didn't really get a lot of commercial attention. So we didn't expect to have be able to travel the world and, do 7 records that have, gone platinum and stuff. Crazy.
But you were in a serious band called the Clowns of Death.
I was in a very serious band.
Pretty serious.
Clowns of Death.
When we started the band, we actually didn't even play instruments. We just thought it would be cool. We literally did. We went to a show. We were going to go see Social Distortion, I think, in Orange County where we live, and we couldn't get in, and came back and we're just drinking a couple beers in somebody's backyard whose parents were gone, and said, we should start our own band. And so we went out and bought guitars and started playing, and it took many, many years to figure it out. But it was something that we liked right from the start. After about 2 years, we had kind of our original lineup. Noodles had joined, and our first real drummer had joined and stuff, and we put out our own 7-inch that we paid for ourselves. See, 7-inch is this thing they used to have where you press this thing of plastic and you put a needle on it. But so we actually did, I guess it was sort of serious back then, like we wanted to make a record and stuff, and it was kind of important to us to.
And we sent them out to fanzines that covered the punk rock scene all across the country, and we went and pressed up the records and then folded all the covers ourselves and glued them together. Had a gluing party at his house one night. And then tried to get clubs to let us play these 2 songs at their clubs.
We'd written those 2 songs. We didn't really have a whole lot of other material, so we're just kind of going through, working out what we sounded like. I think when a band starts, it's a lot harder than it sounds to actually come up with what you call a musical identity or whatever. But we were experimenting with a lot of different sounds and styles and stuff, and eventually it gelled, and we felt good about the group of songs that we had. And so, and the other thing is we were using that 7-inch to try to find a label, and it took like 2.5 years to find someone that was willing to put out a record by it. We put out this self-titled record on Nemesis. They did promote it, a little bit. There was I think we sold 3,000 copies. And in fact, at that point, they wouldn't even print CDs of it. They're just like, we don't think there's enough interest. But we were able to get a record out there somewhat, and we toured and stuff. And we just kind of kept on, trying to meet people and find out a place that would be good for us. And at that time, Epitaph was starting to do well with Bad Religion. And the guy in Bad Religion is the owner of Epitaph. So he was doing that was doing well, and NoFX had just gotten signed, and we thought it would be a good place for us. And it took a little bit of doing, we kind of had to call him a little bit, and we recorded a couple songs with him so he could check us out, and finally he was interested enough to sign us. So when the album came out, and I think people liked it, it got written up in the magazines that it was pretty good and stuff, and Epitaph shipped like 10,000, which seemed like a huge amount to us at the time, so we were really thrilled with that. And then it kind of just stayed there for like almost 1.5 years. It really didn't sell a whole lot more. We were able to do a lot more touring, and people started knowing who we were, but it was kind of like it just was this incubation period where nothing was really happening. I think it trickled up to maybe 15,000 copies or something. And then as people started hearing about us more and this video thing started coming together, it kind of started to just kind of trickle up at the very end there. But that really wasn't until Smash came out. I remember that one time we did our hometown show after Ignition had been out for 1.5 years, and we drew 100 people. We had written some new songs, and we wanted to do another record, and while we're in that process of recording Smash, the sales of Ignition are really picking up. It starts selling like 1,000 a week, and by the time we finish the Smash record, Ignition is up to like 50,000. So it's really kind of started to take off in that time that we had taken off to write Smash. So there was a lot more anticipation than we realized coming into it. And so it was kind of that combined with the fact that I come out and got on the radio pretty quickly, actually.
But by the time that all happened, we'd also done 3 full-length U.S. tours. We'd done a bunch of weekends all over the Southwest. We'd even done a tour of Europe right the summer right before Smash came out, and you know, some people started to know who we were. I think we'd just kind of gone out and showed that this is what we love to do, and we're going to go out and work for it.
You know, we still had jobs at that point. You know, we were kind of doing it on the side. I mean, we never thought anything would really happen for the band. It was just a fun thing to do that we enjoyed, so we treated it that way. But at this point, it was like, you got to go on the road now, you know. So we did. We actually quit and started touring full time. But it was a crazy time for sure.
I was an elementary school custodian, and Come Out and Play had you know, been on the radio. So we went in and spent $5,000 doing a video for it, which is nothing, you know, for MTV budgets, for video budgets. And they put the video in heavy rotation on MTV, and I'm still working as a custodian. I promised my boss I'd finish out the school year into June, and there'd be high school kids, you know, walking through the school to go catch the bus to their high school, and they're like, "Aren't you?" You know, I'm sweeping up leaves, and they're like, "Aren't you the guy, you know, on MTV? Didn't I see you on MTV?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's me."
As the thing kind of took off, it was a crazy time, and Epitaph was hiring people, and they were trying to grow along with us, and we kind of had to make a decision early as to what we should do, but we wanted to stay with Epitaph because we just felt like that was our home, and we kind of grew up with kind of the whole indie vibe and indie spirit, and we liked that. This was a really cool thing. Up until then, you know, whether it was Beck or Veruca Salt or Nine Inch Nails, once a record on an indie started to go, they were usually off to a major before the first single was over. But we really didn't want to do it that way, and I felt really proud that we kind of made it work. We stayed on Epitaph for that whole record. And then after that, we kind of had to sit down again and talk and figure out where to go from there. And we just couldn't come to an agreement after that. So it just seemed like it made sense for us to go to Sony, to Columbia.
But as far as any kind of fan backlash, I mean, I think there was a lot of speculation about what it meant in the media and stuff, but yeah, the people who started to, you know, we had a bunch of new fans from Smash and old fans from Ignition, they came along right with us. I mean, some people were just stoked to know that, you know, we signed a deal and we're going to have a new record out. That's the majority of the fans by far felt that way.
You know, we had most of the material kind of ready for that because the Smash thing kind of went on for like a year and a half. We did a lot of touring, so there was some time to get some material together. And then it took like another 6 or 8 months to sort out the situation with the record label. So as soon as that was signed, we were ready to go. Extend Nombre was a different record for us. It was a lot darker record. And it was the whole, you know, people kept on saying sophomore slump, you know, like, you know, because that invariably is what happens after a record does really well, is the next one by almost any artist never does as well. And you know, we thought about how to approach that and what to do, and thought about how we were a band that had been a band for a long time, and we didn't want to be perceived as one-hit wonders because we weren't, and I thought we had a lot of good songs to offer and stuff. And so we didn't want to just try to create Smash Part 2. So we did an album which really was different melodically and different musically, and I think kind of expanded our horizons as to what people could expect from us. And I think that was kind of received a little bit, you know, weird at the time. I think people were like, wow, I'm not sure what to make of this. This isn't the band I thought I knew on the last record. I basically wrote that song based on what I was seeing when I was, you know, driving around my neighborhood, you know, kind of like that. And there was a little bit of what you'd see on TV. There was a whole Jerry Springer phenomenon going on at the time and stuff. And it was just something I thought someone needed to take the piss out of, you know. And I almost couldn't believe that no one had done it yet, because it was so obvious. No one had written a song about it. So we did it. And so when we did that, I kind of thought that hopefully it would go over well in Los Angeles, where I live, like in our little world and stuff. But as it seemed to grow and grow, and with MTV it really clicked in the US, and then as it went over and we're playing shows in Italy, and I remember some girl in Italy saying, I know someone just like that. It was like, wow, it hit on something that I didn't realize was as universal as it ended up being. At that time, Napster was really huge, and you know, I still feel that the internet's a great place for people to promote their music, and I don't think you necessarily have to have such a paranoid view of it, as you can't let anyone have music on the internet. At that time especially, I think people were using the internet to sample music, and they were usually going out and buying it afterwards. And I think that's changed in the last few years. I think now it's a lot more of the casual listeners that are going out, kind of checking it out and just downloading it. So it is a different world than it was a few years ago. The thing about Napster wasn't so much that we necessarily supported it at the time, like unilaterally, but we knew that our record was going to be on Napster whether we wanted it to or not, because that was just the reality of it. That the labels weren't able to get on top of it. and get it shut down. And so we thought, if that's going to happen anyway, why don't we just put it on our own website? At least maybe we can say, leave us your email address and we'll let you know when we're on tour. Maybe at least establish some kind of connection to the people that are interested in your music. So that was kind of our stance on it. And we were really serious about it. And we took it all the way to where we were about to get sued by our own label. And we threatened to sue them right back, you know, for not protecting our stuff. Anyway, we eventually came to a compromise where they said, go ahead and put your first single up, and that's it. And I was happy with that because I can't think of another time where labels allowed a band to put their own first single on their own website for free downloads.
Another part of this is, you know, this was all right after Americana, and Pretty Fly was purported to be the most heavily pirated song of the year, you know, and look what that did for Americana. I mean, it was one of the best-selling records we'd ever had, so it didn't seem to follow suit that, you know, kids downloading is going to hurt your record sales, at least not to us. It seemed like, if anything, that helped.
I think, yeah, if you're writing music, you have to feel inspired about it. And, you know, with us, I know that I don't always feel inspired. There's some days where I get up and I got nothing. You know, it's probably natural. So you just got to kind of do something else, you know, and just kind of try it again in a few hours or the next day or something. So, you know, this time we did spend a little bit longer making sure that the material was really good, because it is our, you know, 7th album now, and I think it's very easy to kind of fall into a rut of doing what you've kind of done before, revisiting some of your old material. So it was just a matter of us making sure we had it right, even if it took a little longer.
To many, the Offspring are synonymous with the LA skateboard punk rock scene, and to some, they invented it. But was there ever really such a scene?
There was kind of always a punk scene, and there was kind of the skate and surf scene, and there was just a certain point in time, and I guess it was around 91 or 92, where a lot of the people doing these skate videos and these surf videos that they were selling in the shops needed some music to put in. And so they started picking bands like us and Pennywise, really Pennywise before us, and the music just seemed to really complement the footage really well. But it was also a way that all these kids that were into these sports started hearing of bands like us and Pennywise and NoFX, and it was really a great way for us to reach some new people and stuff. But I know that as time goes on, people now associate us more and more with that kind of scene and stuff.